Hello and welcome to the podcast for students made by a student. Although I might not seem like a student from how fresh I am, look at this. Anyways, today I will be talking about the current pandemic, and how it is affecting our lives right now. Well, the pandemic has affected our daily lives like nothing before, from wearing masks, social distancing, and lockdown. Although this pandemic is giving out a lot larger problems. The deaths of many, the economy, and loss of jobs. Even when the pandemic itself is gone, these problems will last for years or even decades. For these reasons, the pandemic has been hard for everyone, and for some, it's been a lot harder. Although for now, it seems like I'm just here to depress you, I'm actually here to help. I've done research on how this pandemic is affecting people. For example, I sent out a survey on how you guys have been coping, and I've learned a lot of people who have been learning new skills and also sticking to old habits. Personally, through the lockdown, although I hate to admit it, I've been playing video games with my friends, and you could say it was questionable, to say the least. I know some of you out there know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, enough of that. Stress is a delicate subject. The stress in teenagers has a lot to do with the environment they are in, but it's also delicate because what can be stressful for one cannot be very stressful for another, like taking, for example, pain. It is also a complicated subject for the reason that there isn't really a best way to deal with this stress. But, for example, a good tip I can give you is that the people that are waiting for the pandemic to end end up being way more stressed and anxious because you can't see the future. Because we unfortunately, we don't have a Doctor Strange for that. Hopefully I don't get copyrighted. But the people that are trying to live in the moment and accept the situation they're in have found to be way less stressed. So, if you're waiting for this pandemic to finish, I suggest try and get the best out of it. So, think about that. Going back to the beginning of lockdown in March, I remember counting the days for lockdown to start. I remember feeling excited as it's almost like a free vacation. And I know many people who thought the same. I mean, no school? Who wouldn't want that? No offense to our school, but I can't say its name because of privacy or something. The IB system is kind of crazy like that. Minding that, talking about school during this time, I was in such a feeling of vacation. My grades kind of plummeted like crazy. Yeah, that's just not a joke. Well, enough about me. I've gathered 4 students that each are experiencing the pandemic differently. This will be able to see how they're dealing with the pandemic and how it can also help you take their example. On to them. Hello, today I'm here with Daniel. Say hi.
Hi.
All right, so I have a few questions for you. First of all, did the pandemic influence the decision of you moving here to ICS?
No. It's like we were gonna move here anyway. It just made the move a lot harder and more complicated, and I think it was postponed because of it. But otherwise, we were still gonna move.
Okay, thank you. So how did the pandemic affect your social life here in ICS?
Well, it's a lot harder to meet people. At first, I was scared because I thought, like, I'm going to be the new kid and I'm going to be seeing everybody through a screen. So thankfully, I actually got to meet people in person. But it's still hard because I can't meet with as many people at a time. And at first, especially, like, the whole, like, hugging, saying hi to people, like, usually that's, like, a very big thing. And it was weird, but I think I'm good. Like, it wasn't too big of a deal in the end.
Okay. Has it been easy to adapt to how the school works with all the COVID-19 restrictions?
Well, since it's a new school, it's just new rules. So yes, I think it's actually harder for people who are used to the old rules because they have to change. So yeah, it's easy.
So like, can you say like generally how your grades have been affected by COVID-19 and moving here?
COVID-19 has affected my grades because at first it's like, you know, when you're in bed or when you're at home in the morning and stuff, you just feel really lazy to do your work. So it did affect my grades at first. But now with the pandemic, we can still come to school, so it's not affecting them as much. it still occasionally does, but it's just the normal.
All right. Last question for you is like, what did you do to get yourself over lockdown?
Over lockdown meaning like
Yeah,
not being able to see people stuff. Well, I had my best friends were like my neighbors almost. Like they lived like 5 minutes away, so I could bike to their house, and although we couldn't always like be in the house, like we could like talk to each other from across the street, and we can go on bike rides together. So that was really easy for me. But apart from that, social life has been good.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm here with Patrick from grade 10.
Hi, I'm Patrick from grade 10.
I have a few questions for you, Patrick. And the first one is, does COVID have anything to do with you moving schools?
Absolutely no reason. Because actually my dad got like a good job opportunity, and so he's taking it.
All right. So during the lockdown, what did you do to like pass the time?
I played Minecraft with one of my friends. His name is and like during our spare time we would play Minecraft. And I have a basketball net in my back garden, so I played a lot of basketball.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Knowing that you're leaving, what do you think will happen to your grades? What does that affect anything?
For me, not really, because like either way with the NYP, my grades like are gonna be sent off anyway. So, I guess like since I'm moving schools, like I've already been accepted into the school, so that doesn't mean anything. But trying hard and getting good grades still is still a good thing.
All right. Next thing is, how do you think COVID-19 will affect your social life when you move there?
I would like to say that I'm a pretty social person, but I feel like with the situation, it'll be a lot harder. Especially since in my school in Dublin, since it's a mixed school, it does NYP and it does the Irish system. There's only maybe like 30 students in the NYP system and maybe another 40 in the other one. So it means that since COVID, we're going to be kind of together, but not really together because it'll kind of be a bit separated. So I feel like it's going to be harder to make friends, but I think I'll still do well.
All right. Thank you very much, Patrick. I'm here now with Javier from grade 10.
Hi.
So I have a few questions for you. During lockdown, how did your attitude towards studying change?
It was a lot harder to study because I'm at home. Obviously, I'm not at school. I'm not in the environment. So it was a lot harder for me to concentrate and to always be attent during classes.
So would you say like you got lazier or?
Yeah, you could say so.
All right. Do you think your grades deteriorated or improved during lockdown?
For me, they kind of stayed the same, maybe a bit improved, because I had more time to work. Although I had more tasks, it was more relaxed, so I could do my work more efficiently.
Okay, interesting. Do you believe that if we go back into lockdown, will you be able to take advantage of the situation?
Probably not, because I'd probably still procrastinate a bit, but it'd probably be the same.
All right. When you were in lockdown, what did you do to like pass the time?
Oof, that's a hard one. I spoke to my friends through the phone and also played video games mostly. So yeah, that was basically my lockdown.
So how would you say like how has COVID-19 influenced your decisions now?
My decisions. What decisions would you?
For example, what do you decide? Do you decide to study more? Decide to study less? Like extra activity, like extra activities?
Well, with the extracurricular activities, I've valued them more. That's for sure. Because during quarantine, obviously, I couldn't do them. So extracurricular activities was a big plus for me, as it boosted my motivation. And yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
For Maria's questions, unfortunately, you won't be able to get direct answers from her, as the audio decided to turn her into a robot, and it's all, Anyway, so instead, I'll be explaining what she said and the premise for these questions. So the interviewee is incredibly invested into sports and is in grade 11. She does sport very seriously to the point that it's almost a profession. So keep that in mind, okay? First, I talked to her about her training and how the lockdown affected it. She talked on how she wasn't able to train during the lockdown, and when it was getting better, she was able to train, but not to the degree of before. The masks are a bit hard to train to and hard to get used to, but then she explained how then started to get better and almost back to normal. As she isn't a grade higher than me, she has a lot of work to do in grade 11. So I asked her how she manages to balance it out with studying and everything else. She said she could manage it pretty easily, but she had to sacrifice a lot of social events. What I found interesting is about this is that it can be a cause of stress for some of you, um, for some of you watching, which feeling like you're falling behind or missing out on conversations can give you huge amounts of anxiety. So, the most important thing to do in this situation is explain how you feel to a friend or a family member you can confide in. I then asked her how her grades were during lockdown. She said better as she has more time to study. When I asked this question to the other interviewees, they all had different answers from worse because they got lazier to not feeling a difference or to getting better grades as they had more time to study. This has a lot to do with the mental state of how you're feeling during lockdown. How you're feeling. Yeah. During lockdown, there was a day where it kicked in, or I finally realized the situation we were in. And like it took me 1 month and a bit to like fully realize. And I was almost in shock, and I can most definitely say that that affected my grades in a negative way. Now the interviews are over. On to me. Again.
Now for an advertisement break. Make sure you leave a comment on what you thought of this video. Anything from compliments to what I should do better. This would really help me out. For, grades. Now that we've gone through that, I'll be talking about how you can improve your stress levels. One thing you can do is essentially filter the information you are receiving. Although that makes no sense, if you keep looking at news talking about, all how bad things are, looking at things that could possibly affect you, things that could possibly affect your family, can cause a lot of stress, when maybe that information might be wrong, fake news, or just a warning of something that might happen, maybe not confirmed. Remember, the media is evil. Yeah, enough about politics. Make sure you are learning new skills or dedicating yourself to new hobbies. This can be a great way to forget about things going on around us right now. There are many useful skills you can learn that will not only pass time, but can be incredibly useful in the future. A great example would be cooking. All I know how to cook is eggs. Now I'll talk about more specific issues us students are having. And as the winter break approaches, you won't have to worry about this for a while. So I'll say it. Academic stress. Yeah, for higher grades it might be more prominent and is the most annoying. But there is an obvious solution to this, which will obviously be getting good grades and not procrastinating. Well, of course, that is not easy, and it's easier said than done. And to be honest, I'm not one to talk either. But just being able to organize yourself will improve your anxiety because you'll know when to do things and you can relax a bit when it comes to knowing when you'll do work. A simple way you can organize yourself will be separating your after school time with study hours and relax hours. For example, imagine you get home at 5:30, then you eat a snack, you take a shower, and it's 6 p.m. You relax for 30 more minutes doing whatever you want, on your phone. And then after that, from 6:30 until 8 p.m., you study. Then you have your dinner, whatever, and you relax again. Even something as simple as that can help you get better onto your feet. As a student, I can tell you that it does work if you follow it. I followed it for a week, and I found it a lot more relaxing in the sense that you could tell what you were doing with your time. Obviously, the example might be different depending on grades and how much studying is needed, how much time you actually have. And the last couple of examples have been done on research on stress for students. But here is my personal take on it as a student and a member of ICS. If there's one thing I've learned during this pandemic, is that no one is waiting for you to do anything. I've been living my life not how I wanted it, figuring I had time to do things, but when the pandemic rolls around, and I just felt like I was losing time. The things I planned to do were completely thrown out the window. So what I'm trying to say is that things are always changing. Nothing and no one is waiting for you to do your homework, go to that party, or ask out that person you like. Changing times might be scary and overwhelming, but it still can be exciting. This makes you appreciate those around you more. And situations like this can create whole new opportunities for learning new skills, like I mentioned earlier. Although this pandemic was horrible, I believe it's important to keep in mind to stay with your close ones and live like you wanted. This has been Daniel in grade 10. I hope you enjoyed my podcast. Make sure you leave a like and follow. Just kidding, I'm not a YouTuber, and this is my first and last podcast you'll get from me, so make sure you enjoyed it. Peace.